You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is December the 10th, 2018. With you today is myself, Carl, and the sometimes coffee Nick.
Happy Monday, Carl.
We are here. Nick's got a real situation on his hands over there.
I was going to say, I feel like we need to explain this so people understand. So I was making dinner before we started recording, and I accidentally burnt some hot red pepper flakes on the pan, and the whole apartment's just like, if you breathe in, you're going to explode in coughing. So I got some windows open, airing it out.
So if we hear traffic going by, that's why. But if Nick's not coughing, that's a good sign too.
Yes, the Toronto sirens.
That's all right. I've got the Calgary sirens right beside us, so that's good. We'll just find out how the emergency services work in our city tonight. You may notice as well, Joel's not here. We missed Joel. He'll be back. No reason to believe he won't be back next week. We've got some plans in store as we get ramped up towards the holiday season. I guess a little preview. We'll be taking a wee bit of a break, maybe a week or two at Christmas, but we'll be back next week. Joel should be here as well, hopefully. But until then, we've got you more than covered over here at the Fourth Line.
Do we ever?
So today we're going to be covering, we're going to talk about Seattle, some of what's happening over there with the Seattle hockey team. As promised, we're going to dive into the Central Division this week. We ran out of time last week, didn't get a chance to do that. So we will do that. We're going to have the 12 days of high sticking. Those are coming back. We've got an announcement to do for that. We'll pick our Pavel Bures. And yeah, that sounds about right. But before we get into all of that, we want to remind you about the Alberta Podcast Network, which is obviously a part of the Alberta Podcast Network. And we actually had a very great event, which reminded me this week we had a little get-together with some of the shows in the network, hosted by our friends at ATB, and just reminded me how much they support the network and how much they support the community, because you see as you walk around their facility out there, just how much great things they're doing and how they truly, they're not just supporting. There's so many different ways that they are in the community doing initiatives, things like that. If you head to atb.com, you can find those out. If you head to atb.com/hockey, you can find out the ways that they're supporting hockey in your community. And it's a great thing. If you are playing hockey in Alberta right now, especially minor league hockey, you are affected by ATB, and that is a great thing. So thank you to them. And head over to atb.com, because you know what? Why not use a bank that supports the things that you enjoy? That sounds like a good thing to me.
Me too.
The Seattles, they're getting a team, Nick. It's happening.
The Seattle hockey team. The Seattle hockey players.
Yes, they will form a team.
I think they should just be called the Seattle hockey players.
That sounds... I would support that. What would you... It reminds me, I don't know, did you ever watch the Community show?
Yeah.
That's the Greendale human beings of hockey.
The human beings, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So their mascot would literally just be the human being on skates, which is a terrifying idea for a mascot, but
that is terrible.
Whatever works. So the Seattle hockey players, they will be getting a new team, and there's a number of things that come with it. The date 2021 is the year that they will be coming, which is 3 years from now. I guess 2 years more of hockey before we expand to 32 teams. Are you excited?
2.5.
2.5, I guess, depending on how many lockouts we have.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is a big driving force behind this. They won't admit it, but anyways, I am excited. Yeah, I think that having an uneven amount of teams is dumb. Like, you might as well even it out, even though the conferences won't really be evened out. But I am looking forward to having another team in the league, especially for the rivalry with Vancouver.
Yeah, that'll be good to have that built in, because there isn't really. I know people tried to say that there would be a rivalry between the Knights and the Coyotes. But somehow the Knights have already skyrocketed past the Coyotes in every level, so to the point that there is no rivalry there.
Yeah, no, they're just too good.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you thought that the lockout is a big driving force of this. Why do you think that?
Because I think the last thing the league wants, and I think it would be terrible for them to bring in a new team, and their first season is marred by a lockout, whether it's a full cancellation or a partial season. You don't want that to be your next expansion team's introduction to the league.
So what do you, because like to me, I look at how this is going with this current round of negotiations, and to me, it honestly feels like I'm getting the sense that a strike is more of a possibility right now than a lockout. And if that's the case, then the NHL's really put Seattle behind the eight ball, because if there's a strike and the players are saying we don't want to play at these conditions, then that really, forces it. Because, you see the fact that the owners are already trying to make concessions and already doing this, they certainly do not want a lockout at this point in time. And, the players have always said that they want to play hockey every single lockout, but I think at this point in time, to me, a strike seems more likely.
Yeah, and it could very well be. But I think, so we agree that there is likely going to be a work stoppage in 2020.
There's a strong potential. There's a history here.
And I think from the owner's perspective, why risk it?
For sure.
How could you not use that as a negotiating tactic? Either the players or the owners.
Yeah. Well, and, Gary Bettman one of the things that he loves a lot is to have team values, right? Like the value of the Seattle team skyrocketed. It's higher even than Vegas was when they came in 2 years ago. And so to have that automatically just drops the value of that team if all of a sudden you're not getting your money back, right? They paid that money up front and now they're losing it. That suddenly looks very bad on the NHL. Not that they're expanding anymore anytime soon. I don't expect them to go to a 33rd team.
Yeah. No, me neither. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with giving them more time to get everything up and running properly. If they felt like they were going to be so rushed that they'd have to start the season on a 12-game road trip, I don't see any issue with just waiting another year and doing it properly and make sure everything's up to speed.
Yeah, because as much as it's shocking how well the Knights did, I don't think anyone, well, and I know, no one really wants to see a new team struggle, right? Even if you're in Vancouver and you assume you'll have that rivalry with Seattle, what good does it do the league if there's one team that's just like a tire fire, right? Sure, we laugh at the Sens and Eugene Melnyk for what's happening there. But if a brand new team comes in, that doesn't do anyone any good, right? They're going to be terrible for decades, and then you just suddenly have, maybe not decades, but a while, and then they eventually just move, right? You have a Thrasher situation on your hands. No one hated the Thrashers. I think everyone just wanted them to do well. And there's already a team in Winnipeg, so we can't move them there.
No, you can't. The Thrashers were a tire fire, that whole situation. I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah, it was bad. I was looking back on that recently, and just the fact of, who they had, the fact everyone left as soon as they could, it was not good.
Yeah, no, it was not great. They didn't have the proper practice facility. They didn't, the players, the players didn't know where they should be buying housing. The whole thing was a mess. So, an extra year for Seattle to figure these things out, that's fine. Excuse me, I'm going to cough.
All right. Well, while Nick tries not to die over there from his spicy hot peppers in the pan, yeah, I agree. The fact that we have, a team in a situation like that, I would for sure agree. And let's not forget the fact that we can also have a lockout after they start as well. Because as the current situation, the NHL could keep going to 2021-22, if they don't opt out early, which again doesn't seem likely, but if they choose to do that, then they can just start the franchise and then get locked out, which is always a nice thing to have happen, to start it and then have that. But
yeah, I don't know. Do you ever? This might be a dumb question, but like, do you think that there is an issue with diluting the talent in the league by continuing to add teams?
It's definitely an issue for sure, and it's not a big issue, right? Because like if you take, well, we look at the last situation, right? Everyone lost one player. Everyone's going to lose one player again coming up here, and if you take every team's, in theory, last time it was their 11th best player, if I'm recalling, 11th or 12th best player. If you take everyone's 11th or 12th best player, that shouldn't, in theory, if you run your team well, be that big of an issue, right?
Yeah. And the more I think about it too, all you're really doing is creating, another 30 roster spots in the NHL.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even like 30 because it's 23 on an NHL roster. So there's 23 jobs in an NHL, that are being added. I don't think that is that big of a dilution. Obviously, the more you do, that happens, right? If you look at it from like a macroscopic point of view, yeah, like if you were to go all the way back and if you were to stop adding teams at like, Nashville, right? Like if Nashville beyond didn't exist. So like Nashville, Columbus, Minnesota, Vegas, and now obviously Seattle.
Winnipeg,
yeah, the Thrashers,
the Thrashers
as well, yeah. So you take those 6 teams and all of a sudden now there's, 20% more or less jobs. And so the depth, the teams are deeper. I'm not sure that makes a better product though, right? Like if you're having this, cause there's an amount, and I know that, you mentioned this individual before, but one person, I always love what Jeff Merrick said about why junior hockey was so fun. He said it's fun to watch because it's bad, right? That's why the World Juniors are coming up and everyone wants to watch it because it's bad. There's a certain amount of like, it's fun to watch the best players in the world be the best and to do those things, right? Everyone wants to watch Connor McDavid score fancy goals, but also it's fun to watch like a 7-6, like that 9-6 Calgary Columbus game the other day. I don't want that every night, but it's fun every now and again to watch one of those happen.
100% agree. Just to watch like the chaos ensue with players who only kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so if we can have a little bit of that, again, they're still going to be the best in the world. If we assume that, I guess egotistically that the NHL is the best in the world and that we just ignore everyone who plays in the K in Sweden and everything like that. Adding the next, 23 best players?
Yeah. And I think you could safely say the NHL is the best league in the world. I don't think that's
no, I don't think that's a stretch either.
It's a stretch.
One other thing that's going to happen with this is, so there is going to be some reorganization of the division. Seattle obviously is going into the Pacific. If your city is literally on the Pacific Ocean, you get to be in the Pacific. It's not like the Atlantic where they just make it up. And they're like, you're not actually on the Atlantic. You're on a river that's connected to the Atlantic. But, you're actually pretty far from the ocean. Those metro teams are a lot closer than you.
Or in Winnipeg for that 1 year.
Or in Winnipeg. Yeah, you're in the middle of the country. We'll call you Atlantic. So Seattle's going to the Pacific, which would have put them at 9 teams, the Central at 7. So they are moving the Arizona Coyotes out of the Pacific Division into the Central. And for me, as a fan of a team in the Central Division, I welcome the Coyotes with open arms.
Yeah, I'm sure you all do.
I would love to play you more than twice a year. I'm very much looking forward to that, especially if Seattle is as good as Vegas was. I don't want a Vegas level team. I want an Arizona level team. So please bring us the Coyotes.
And with that, the Coyotes are one step closer to attaining their ultimate dream of just becoming the Chicago Blackhawks.
It's true. Yeah, now they can both be bad.
They can both be bad and continue to make bad trades to each other.
Yes, exactly. They'll just play it at the same arena soon. It'll be great. Just practice on the same ice. No one will know the difference.
No one will know.
And so I this realignment is the word that I was looking for. Realignment of the divisions. It just makes sense, right? Like there's nothing too crazy about this to have It would have come down Arizona, maybe Vegas, but I think they didn't want to touch Vegas with how soon that team has shown up.
Yeah, I agree. A realignment had to happen. It's just, it kind of makes you aware of how West heavy the league's become. Because, I don't know. I haven't looked on the map yet, but I don't think Arizona's really central.
No, not at all. They're very, very not central. But again, the central teams in the Western Conference, that's kind of where they are. They're,
but what about a Calgary or an Edmonton? Do you think they just didn't want to split those teams up?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point. And part of it is, you can't move to say one. I guess Arizona technically more east than either of those are. Barely.
Really?
I think, yeah. On my fancy Google Maps here, I don't have the actual latitude on it, but I guess that would be longitude. It's a science class here, or geography class with us today. Yeah, it looks like Arizona's Phoenix is a little bit more east than Calgary. But part of it is, can you imagine, you move Calgary, you ruin that rivalry. Okay, that's fine. But then you're trying to logic, okay, well, which one moves next, right? Then you'd have to move Edmonton, because if you're going to move one, it's the other. And then you suddenly have this situation where Edmonton playing in the Central Division, I know Vancouver complains about how much travel they have to do, but trying to get Edmonton flying all the way out to Denver, all the way out to Nashville repeatedly, all the way out to some Dallas, that's not going to be nice for them. I know Dallas used to be out in the other side, but that's not going to be good. That's a lot of travel. I know they have a ton to California right now, but it would get even worse.
I mean, it's not going to be nice for Arizona either.
No, it's not. But out of the teams you're making it not nice for, that's the best hope, right?
Better be the Coyotes.
Better be the Coyotes. Yeah. They're really only, just play all the games on the road and you'll be fine. I think that's the best option.
They basically do with the fans that are in the arena, right?
Yeah. I saw the Islanders are actually, so they're playing their stretch of games back on the island now, and they're actually getting some good home crowds. It's nice.
That is good for them. They've had a lot of drama with that arena situation.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully that gets resolved. Well, it will be resolved, and we'll see. Hopefully that goes well for them. So we'll be looking at Arizona in the Central, Seattle in the Pacific, and lots of names being thrown around. And we are not Seattleites.
Seattle. I don't know. Seattlers.
We are not from Seattle. And so, kind of the localness of it is lost on us, right? I see people saying Totems. That was a team that used to exist. The Supersonics, another team that used to exist there. And, one of those is likely to be used again. The other is not. But, we'll see what they come up with for a name and some jerseys. It'll be exciting. I know the lead up to Vegas was very exciting to see every step along the way, and we will see that in due time. We'll be able to start to look. It's a little too early now to start looking at who's getting picked. I'm
sure they're gonna. For the expansion draft's a whole other thing. But on the naming thing, I'm sure they're gonna wait till the dead of summer when there's nothing else to talk about to get people talking. But what's been one of your favorite ones that have been thrown out there so far? I've seen things like the Kraken, the Sasquatch, the Overcast, the Supersonics. Which one do you like best?
I like the Kraken. That's just it has such great potential for logos and marketing and everything. That'd be a ton of fun. I think any of them there was some very nice coffee based ones, that made me chuckle. Sasquatch, one idea I had was, and I know that it wouldn't get picked, but some sort of thing, cause obviously Seattle's still bitter as a city about losing the Sonics to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And they changed their name to the Thunder. I was so you could make it. I know Seattle wouldn't want that because why would you name your team something super petty forever? But because I wanted to call it the Lightning, but that's already picked, right? To do the opposite. So you could, and just going with the Thunder wouldn't really work either.
Imagine that Stanley Cup final though, the Thunder versus the Lightning.
the Thunder versus, or, it's a Canadian heavy league. I wouldn't pass it where they're, CFL with 2 Rough Riders. Just have 2 Lightning. It's fine. No one will get confused ever.
They don't play each other twice a year, right?
Yeah, Lightning versus Lightning, it's fine. It can only help Seattle, build that market base. Everyone loves the Lightning.
Yeah. I like the Thunder. I think that's a good suggestion, too.
Yeah, Thunder versus Lightning. Thunder and Lightning 2021. There we go.
There you go.
The NHL handed out a couple suspensions this week. Mark Giordano, captain of the Calgary Flames, got one for kneeing Mikko Koivu. I think kind of well deserved. But the one that kind of caught my eye the most was the suspension handed out to Zachary Hyman of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He got a 2-game suspension for interference on, it was Charlie McAvoy, was it not?
It was Charlie McAvoy, yes.
Yeah. So he got his suspension for that. And we talked briefly last week about Tom Wilson's lack of suspension. A similar timing on Tom Wilson. Ryan Reeves was not suspended as well for a late hit. And I am very curious and confused now. Before I was very confused what was and wasn't, a headshot. Now I'm confused what is and isn't interference. Because it definitely seems like they're all relatively the same amount of time after the player touched the puck last. What I don't understand, Nick. Help me out.
So you're telling me you are confused by something the Department of Player Safety has done.
That's a fact, yeah.
So nothing has changed.
It's exactly the same. Yeah, it's 2018 and we're still at the same part we have been for decades.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I watched the Hyman hit this morning and I watched our explanation video and I actually think it was worthy of, what did he get, 2 games?
Yeah.
So that, fine, it's not it wasn't worthy of 10 games or anything, but it was a dirty hit in my opinion. How you don't do that, look at the other 2, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm fine with the Zach Hyman suspension. I'm confused why he got something and the other 2 didn't. Right? If you're gonna call Wilson and Reeves not suspendable, especially with the histories there, and then turn to Zach Hyman and say, yeah, you're suspended for something very similar. Everything looks a lot later when you slow it down, like they do those videos.
For sure. Right?
It'd be nice if they actually had a play clock. It was 4 seconds since he last had the puck. And yeah, Zach could have moved and not hit him.
You know Absolutely. What, though, with Hyman, I don't think it was about the lateness because guys finish their checks all the time. And they know that and they take that into consideration. But I think it was more so that he put himself in a skating lane that was in McAvoy's blind spot. He came at him directly from behind and then he finished his check. They called it predatory because of how he made himself invisible and then went and hit him. So he caught him off guard, unsuspecting. So yeah. I think that's contributed to it more so than just the delayed hit.
Well, it was I would argue less of a blind spot hit than the Tom Wilson one, where he literally came from right behind him and did the exact same thing.
Agreed.
So for me, I don't know. This is just Carl ranting about how terrible the NHL player safety is.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if they're getting to a point where they're afraid of the harshness of the penalties they're going to have to hand out to a guy like Tom Wilson. Because he got 40 games last time and then it was repealed by the arbitrator or something like that. And what's the next step?
Right, absolutely. And if Zach Hyman gets 2 games for that hit and you were to say, all right, Tom Wilson, you also get 2 games for Hyman, who is not a repeat offender. What do you even give? Right now you're given a 4 or 5 game suspension for a hit that, wasn't an injury, which we know injuries play a big part in the NHL's thing. But we'll see. I think part of it as well, because both of those, Wilson and Reeves, and again, this is maybe part of it, but not entirely, because they were kicked out a lot sooner into the game, right? Because that Hyman hit happened. The game was over. There was no need for that.
Did he get ejected?
He did get ejected, but it was so late that who really cares, right? All 3 of them got ejected for their hits.
Yeah.
But the other two, there was more time left in the game, so I was like, okay, maybe you count. I heard some people logicking, well, that's a game, right? Like they already missed their game. But with Hyman getting 2, it's like, okay, well, maybe make it 1, and I can buy that argument. But
yeah, I think the department for sure takes into consideration the on ice punishment. Oh, this guy, he missed 50 minutes. The refs caught it.
Yeah,
he did his time.
Served his penalty, and let's let him go. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. I think they take that into consideration. But I mean, if you're looking for an explanation, you're not going to get one from me because I got nothing.
Well, let's get. Here's another thing that I kind of want some explanation on. The NHL came out today and released a statement in regards to the Winter Classic coming up, and my love for outdoor hockey games.
Yes,
I'm a sucker still. I will probably be watching the Boston and Chicago outdoors on New Year's Eve. I'm not even going to be able to be there. I'm in Vegas that day. Shucks.
To be honest with you, Carl, I had no idea who's even playing in that game.
I have the press release right here so I could read it.
Doesn't the press release say the much anticipated matchup?
The much anticipated matchup between the Boston Bruins and the Chicago Blackhawks at Notre Dame Stadium. Yeah, as we all know, as we have all been much anticipating, that is happening for sure.
Oh my God.
What's interesting is what they're doing to change this game. So we all know that it is a risky proposition to play hockey outside, right? For those of us who've played hockey outside, the conditions can be at best questionable.
Yep.
And when you take, players on multi-million-dollar contracts and you try to play it, things can happen. They have done great things in the ice quality in the past few years, and they're going the next step. The NHL, this is what the Vice President of Facilities Operations, for those of you who do not know, the pucks are frozen, right? You play with the frozen puck, it's a lot less bouncy. NHL wants to make sure that when you put a black puck on white ice and let the sun on it, they want to know, is that puck still frozen? So they have said that they are adding a special coating to the puck that will change from purple to clear when the puck's temperature is above freezing. So when that puck gets to 1 degree Celsius, it suddenly stops being purple. Which makes me question, what are we going to be doing with a purple puck the entire rest of the game? What? Is this like, was there a choice that they could make? Like, I have no issue with a purple. Why not make it black, right? Why not make it change the color to purple when it starts to get warm, right? We've seen the Coors Light cans, right? You see those commercials, the old silver bullet, it's going to light up bright blue. Those mountains are going to show up perfectly for you when it gets cold. Why couldn't we just do that? But make it black instead of mountains, or put the mountains on there.
Just the Colorado mountains.
Exactly. What? Oh, we wrapped the puck in a Coors Light can. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
So have you seen the actual pucks?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I saw a picture of them, and it's basically the writing and the logos on the puck that's purple.
Okay, and they'll have their fancy pucks that they're using for.
They have their fancy pucks. Yeah. But here's my suggestion: is the puck has a Gary Bettman signature on it with his name under it that says commissioner. I think they should just have the writing disappear because everyone just wants to see Gary Bettman's name disappear from official NHL tools and merchandise.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Here's actually when I first read this, I thought it was a much worse scenario, and I strongly questioned what they were doing. Now remember, I read this at 7:30 this morning.
Can I guess what I thought you were thinking?
Yeah. What did you think?
Did you think the whole puck was going to be purple?
Yeah, and that the entire puck would disappear. When they said that the puck switched from purple, there was a special coating on the puck that changed from purple to clear. I was like, you cannot play. All of a sudden, the puck is bouncier and it is clear. You cannot play with a clear puck. That's not okay. Do not do that. I then quickly, it took me, I'd say 15, 20 minutes, almost the entire drive to work until I realized it's probably just the sticker or like one side of it. It's probably not the entire puck gone invisible, which I was wondering as well how they're using cloaking technology on NHL pucks and not more important things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the NHL, one of the NHL's partners, PPG Paints, has a new paint innovation that they'd like to get some some consumer eyes on.
Yeah. And you know, I've seen this before. Similar sponsors, DuPont, big sponsor of longtime supporter Jeff Gordon. And so at his races, they would always have weird colored paints on the car because, well, they can. And that's a big sponsorship thing. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like having a purple puck that changes to clear. I hope you can see it from the ice or like from the TV.
I don't know if you'll be able to. Because the puck is still going to be black. It's just like the writing on it. So I don't know if you'll be able to actually see the purple. I'm sure they'll get some cameras on it at some point between the play, but I don't know. They may have to, do it digitally. Just on your TV, highlight the puck purple, and as it warms up, it can disappear.
Just have a picture of it. I assume that what it'll actually happen is, you will see it well enough that when the linesman picks up the puck to drop it, he'll say, oh, we need to swap this out for a different puck, right?
Yeah.
So again, all of my hopes and dreams for this are being subdued from being able to see a glowing purple puck to an invisible puck, and now it's like just a sticker that the linesman can see when he picks it up.
Well, just go back and rewatch games from the 90s. There were lots of glowing pucks.
It's true. I do think, your scenario of having it where you can easily see the puck, I think more so than the 90s, just have like a picture-in-picture up on the top corner, just a picture of the puck all the time so that we can see what's happening. And that cameraman needs to be very good.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can see. So,
to be honest with you, it never even occurred to me that the puck would have to be frozen. I'd never thought about that they're switching out pucks based on the temperature of the puck.
Yeah, well, and I guess like at an NHL game, they switch them out regularly enough that you don't really think about it. But when it's got the sun on it, you've got these in weird conditions. Yeah, again, something that the NHL now has to think about. Now that they've got the ice there, make sure that so we'll see what happens. That's going to be at Notre Dame Stadium. So
yeah, I don't know where that is. Is that in Boston or Chicago?
I think it's in Illinois, so close to Chicago.
Okay,
like where the Notre Dame Fighting Irish play football.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to chat Central Division?
Let's talk about the Central Division. How do we think the Coyotes are doing?
I think they're ready to finish last in the Central. Like you said, they're going to give the Blackhawks a run for their money. I still think it might be, if you were to, if we're starting at the bottom, I don't know if you can get worse than the Blues right now. They're losing games. They're fighting in practice. The St. Louis Blues, they're calling each other out in the media. I don't know if you saw.
I saw that.
Shed and Alex Steen having
what is going on in St. Louis?
Bickering between each other. For those who didn't see, Braden Shen, I don't have the exact quote here right now, but Braden Shen was asked, someone said, Steen said that you guys should be a little bit more focused. And he said, well, if that's what he said, maybe you should go ask him those questions, which is always a nice throwback back to your own teammates. So,
and who fought? Do you know?
Oh, it was some guys that I didn't really care too much to see, but it was some depth players for the Blues got in a little tussle at practice today. So things are going great in St. Louis. They don't have a good goalie anymore. They're fighting at practice. It's not good.
But we talked about this when they fired Mike Yeo. I still don't think they're as bad as they are playing right now. They shouldn't be.
No, I agree.
They really shouldn't be. But at this point, teams like St. Louis and Chicago, I don't know. They're not. Their chances aren't looking too good to finish out the year.
Well, they're back of the wild card even. St. Louis is 11 back of the wild card. Chicago's 12. It's not good. Chicago's behind the LA Kings in the Western Conference. They're dead last. This is not something that you are suddenly turning around. We're more than a third of the way into the season, right? By the time Christmas rolls around, by the time January 1st is, we're almost halfway. And if you're that far back, you have to pass the entire conference. No, Chicago's not making it, right? I think next week we're debuting the elimination station. The team least likely to be in, I think that can be a hotly contested little conversation there of who is the team that we've decided is the worst in the NHL right now? Because, if we look around, LA, you've got, the entire East is somehow closer, right? Ninth, or the wild card to the last place is only 9 points separating them, where it's 12 in the West. So
yeah, and Chicago is on a 7-game losing streak, and they're 1-9-0 in their last 10. It's almost like Joel Quenneville wasn't the problem.
It's almost like him leaving made it worse.
Yeah.
He was the thing holding that team, which if you're like, hey, we need to rebuild, firing Joel Quenneville so that you can get that rebuild started, get that Jack Hughes pick, it's not the worst.
I guess not. And they have the worst goal differential in the league by a long shot. Yeah. Like, it's not even close.
Minus 31 for the old Chicago Blackhawks, which is like, that's a goal a game. They average a goal a game less than their opponent.
That's not good. Bad. The next closest is minus 24 for context.
Yeah, and there are teams that have, it's not for them. It's not that they're not scoring. They're obviously not scoring a ton, but it's the goals against, right? The only team giving up more goals than the Blackhawks are the Ottawa Senators, and there's a lot of reasons why we know the Senators are there. As much as the Senators are bad, they also have a ton of injury problems right now. The Blackhawks they're just bad. Like, they have no other excuses, just extra terrible.
Yeah, they're not looking good.
So we've got them at the bottom of the Central, and then it is quite a close match from there on out, right? If we look towards the top and the middle, obviously Nashville and some team Colorado, I don't know if you've heard of them, they're at a tie for the top of the Central Division.
No, never heard of them.
You know what, Nick? I've got a great documentary for you to watch. You're going to learn so much about the Avalanche. It's going to be fantastic. I'll send you the link when we finish.
Well,
you're going to love it.
Oh, we'll have to tweet out later this week when I'm actually going to watch it, because it will be this weekend, and I'll do it either probably Saturday morning, fresh off the heels of my wife's holiday Christmas party. So I'll be feeling nice and emotional that morning.
Excellent. Yes. Well, that'll be good. So stay tuned for that on the Twitters Saturday morning. You can find Nick at NickSagan19. You can follow him there and get that. But from there, from first to fifth is separated by 7 points. Nashville, Colorado, Winnipeg, Dallas, Minnesota. Who, with only that short of an amount, first to third separated by 1 point. Who's your favorite right now to win this division?
I think Nashville still. I think for me, it's between Nashville and Winnipeg.
As the other team in that top three, I'm a little bit offended.
Yeah, I know you are.
I also agree with you, though.
Yeah.
I watch the Colorado, and obviously we're coming off the heels of them losing 7-1 against Tampa on Saturday night. I don't feel super great about my team right now. But I watch most of their games, and I can't explain how they keep winning. I enjoy it. I'm along for the ride, but no one is doing anything outside of that top line. There's the odd game that the Soderberg line does something, but it's McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, and that's it. Which a lot of teams get by with that.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's risky though too.
Right. Well, that's what we saw it last year in the playoffs. Boston. It was like, if you shut down that top line, if you find a way to do it, which over a 7-game series you're going to, right? If you have a good enough coaching staff and you have good enough players, you will find a way to shut down that line. You will get that matchup you need. It'll happen. Day in, day out through the regular season, sure, you can get by with that. Yeah,
for sure. I agree. And I still think a player on that top line is overperforming a little bit. So he may come down. But yeah, so I think that Colorado can comfortably fit into that third spot in the division. I think we have our top three for the year.
Which is I'm just counting my lucky stars, because I didn't think that they would be where they are right now. But they are. They're here, and I'm gonna ride it while we can.
Who could have guessed that? It was only 2 seasons ago they had the worst, right? Was it 2 seasons ago? They had that worst,
yep,
the worst point total in like league history or something.
Yeah, and literally like the only big real change they did, well, they brought up Rantanen. He wasn't playing with that team that year, and then obviously the Duchesne trade, which changed the trajectory of this franchise drastically.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's what Again, if we can get some depth, I expect if it's back-to-back years in the playoffs for the Avalanche, especially having those 2 firsts, I would fully expect Sakic to be a little bit more aggressive. Last year, he didn't make any moves at the deadline because we might not have made the playoffs. And he got bit by that once when we made the Michael Boedker trade. I expect that he would be more aggressive, moving future picks and pieces at the deadline this year.
So what do you think his moves are? Like, what do they need? What do they need to round out?
I think that they need some additional scoring from their wings. Up the middle, they're a little bit better. Right? Like Soderberg, nothing to get super excited about. He's been doing quite well this year. Defensively, I don't think there's anything because there's a slight chance that Cale Maker will return to this team. Not return to this team, but make his debut with this team late in the year once college hockey season's done. So if he shows up, that's like, and he, he's as advertised. That's the defensive addition at the blue line we need. So, another winger on the side, depending on what they're looking for, there's a certain new Los Angeles King who, once he's off the IR, could be on the trading block. And, this team has a lot of cap space. I wouldn't be entirely sad about Ilya Kovalchuk showing up on the Colorado Avalanche.
Now that would be interesting for the Kings, that they went out of their way to sign him.
And then just moved him immediately. But that situation, from all I can tell, is that's a situation that once he's healthy, there's a strong likelihood that he will be moved this season. So, and that's, it's a multi-year deal. So,
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he's the one driving it too. Like, we know the guy likes to win. He wants to go somewhere where he's going to do well and win. Yeah. So it would not surprise me if he comes out of that and asks for them to search the market. But I agree with you. I like the Avalanche's defense. And I think that...
Which, again, is not something you would have said 2 years ago.
No, absolutely not.
You would not have said that.
Yeah, I really like Sam Girard. I think that was a really good move on their part. But yeah, it's just they're kind of like middle to bottom 6. They could use an upgrade or two.
Yeah. And so we'll see. And again, some of these guys are underperforming as well. Some of these younger players that you kind of hope to take that next step haven't, right? But if there's someone that we can replace, get some more out of some of these guys. I saw Kamenev, actually, speaking of centers, Kamenev is likely out for the rest of the season. He had shoulder surgery or is having shoulder surgery. So that's a guy that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they could make a move for a center. But I think a scoring winger would do this team well.
You know who'd look really good on this team is Gus Nyquist.
I was going to say, which Detroit Red Wing are you going to try to pawn off on me now, Nick?
Gus Nyquist. He's in the final year of his deal.
Okay.
And he's a good user.
Okay. Yeah. 27 points in 30 games so far this year. I like it.
Yeah,
let's get Ken and Joe to talk to each other.
You got them on the phone?
Yeah. Make it happen. So that's those teams. Nashville right now, their biggest issue obviously is health. This is the part of the year that everyone starts to get banged up. Nashville especially. PK Subban is on the IR. They have, I'm just trying to recall who else is on there right now. PK's on the IR. They have,
Kyle Turris is hurt.
Kyle Turris, Victor Arvidsson, Philip Forsberg.
Yeah. That sucks.
That's a lot.
That's all I wanted to say.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a very good line that you have on the injury, right? A Turris, Forsberg, Arvidsson line.
Yeah.
I'd love that for the Avalanche. If we're talking pieces to pick up, could we trade for the entire Nashville Predators IR? I'd like that.
Yeah, you would.
I would. Yeah, I most certainly would. But that's part of the thing is they're winning, right? They're tied for the top of this division, 1 point back of the somehow leading the West Flames, with these guys hurt. And obviously they haven't been hurt for that long, but, that's why I agree with you that the Preds are the team to watch.
Yeah, and I think, despite the injuries, they will be fine. I mean, really all they need to do is make it into the playoffs, which I think they will do comfortably, and then they can tear it up.
Exactly. This is one of those teams similarly to Toronto last year, right? Toronto did not have to worry about rushing back Austin Matthews last year. The Predators do not need to risk re-injuring these guys. They need them healthy by April.
Absolutely.
So, and then I guess if we look at, Winnipeg, I would agree. I'd probably still have them. Connor Hellebuck, not as good as he was last year, but still good enough for this team. When you're putting up 7 goals, I know it was against the Flyers, but you put up 7 goals. It doesn't matter who's in net. Unless you're the Blue Jackets, but that's a different story. Hey, you know that we love to rep the fifth line over here.
We do love to rep the fifth line.
Which brings us to like the middle, Nashville and not Nashville, Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas, aka Nashville of the West. They don't say that, but I do. Dallas and Minnesota, Battle of the North Stars. For that, probably what would be the last spot, last spot / wild card spots. And these are two teams where, a wild card seems appropriate at this point. A questionable wild card is kind of where I see them at.
So you think one of the two are going to grab a wild card spot?
Yeah, like I look at where, the other teams that they're fighting for there. It's Edmonton, who now with Ken Hitchcock there have gone on a tear. Shockingly, that tear has coincided with Ken Hitchcock not wanting to play Cam Talbot ever. Shocking. Mikko Koskinen, apparently better. Who knew? So there's that side of it, right? So you've got Edmonton suddenly playing well. You've got Vegas, who have done well. Anaheim's managed to push themselves back in on the heels of John Gibson. And then Calgary, I still don't understand that. As much as I don't understand Colorado, I also don't understand Calgary. So
I don't understand most of the Pacific Division.
Yeah. So and San Jose is not going anywhere either. So, I think I look at it as 4 teams fighting for that spot, right? Vancouver down, I kind of almost already say there's no hope for you, right? And so there's 10 teams fighting for 8 spots in the West. And I think Minnesota or Dallas are just as qualified as any of those other teams to make it. Dallas can score all the goals when they put their minds to it. They're not this year. They're actually winning off of a more defensive approach. They're keeping the puck out of the net, which is a different take from the team that put up all those goals a couple years back. And Minnesota's kind of just like they're a mid-pack team again. Devin Dubnyk still good, not great like he was when he first showed up in Minnesota, but I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about them.
I think I'd take Dallas over Minnesota every time. Minnesota just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't know. I just don't see much there that excites me. Dallas, I think, has a little more star power, pun intended, behind them.
Well, and this is a healthy Minnesota Wild team, right? Like,
right.
When the pending, obviously they're not getting a ton of Zach Parise right now, but when the Zach Parise injury inevitably happens, and they lose his, he's on pace for 30-ish goals. That's nothing to be disappointed about. It's actually quite good from what I've heard. And so, when that leaves the lineup, when he eventually gets hurt, when Ryan Suter, he re-injures something, when you have those two guys out of your lineup, this is going to look very different. So yeah, I would probably lean towards Dallas, as the favorite there as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Central Division. Any other thoughts you have on the old Central?
No.
Well,
I don't think about the Central Division that much, Carl.
Well, I'm glad that much like everyone, I feel like no one really focuses, unless you have a team in the Central. It's not like a big media thing, right? Because there's only one Canadian team. There's no like big markets there. Like Chicago's the only one. They're now terrible, so no one's following Chicago. So the Central is definitely the least covered division in mainstream hockey media. So
they get neglected a lot.
I'm glad that we could make this happen for you, Nick, especially, but also for our listeners.
Me too. Carl, you're such a nice guy. We should actually send an email to all the Central Division teams to let them know that we've done this for them.
Yeah, that's true. This is our Christmas gift to them. Happy holidays. Central Division from the Fourth Line Podcast. Speaking of which, the 12 days of high sticking are a thing that we've done in the past. And we're doing it again.
Amazing.
Yeah. We are creatures of comfort here. However, we are not comfortable doing the same 12 days of high sticking year after year after year. It's new. It's improved, hopefully. And we've got it coming for you. So there are a couple of things that we didn't talk about before, Nick. And I didn't run this by Joel either.
So this should go well.
Yeah, we're gonna just sort this out right here. So if we start it to end, I'm proposing we start the 12 days of high sticking on December 13th, which takes us right up to Christmas Eve. Then you're not trying to clamor to see what is the Fourth Line tweeting out. I need to get my high sticking in over those days. Mm-hmm. The NHL shuts down, we'll shut down, it'll be fantastic. So that's my proposal. Do you also want to do the winners of the games for high sticking those days? Do we want to just have double chances for points those days? Or do we end on the 12th? That's the last day to get points. And then we switch over and crown a 12 days of high sticking champion after?
Well, there's still games happening, right?
There are still games happening.
We're still watching games, right?
There's still must-watch games every day.
I think we should do it.
All right, we're doing both.
I think we should do both. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. So we will keep this session of high sticking going all the way until Christmas. We'll fire it back up after the Christmas NHL break. And so that'll be great. December 24th will be the last chance to get points in this session. But Nick, we should tell them how they can play the 12 days of high sticking, because this is coming up fast.
I was going to ask if you were going to let the secret out.
Yeah, well, let's do it. So, This year, it's what we've dubbed a photo scavenger hunt. Now, you don't have to hunt too much for it, and that's what's great. We want it, there's going to be some effort, some thought needs to be put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to let the entire cat out of the bag. But here's some of the things that you are going to be taking pictures of. So what we want is every day we'll send out the old tweet. We'll say, hey, send us a picture for high sticking. Show us this. Things that could include you watching hockey, whether it be at an arena, whether it be on your couch, whether it may be on an airplane streaming it on your favorite device of sorts. Who knows? But that's what we want. We want a picture of you watching hockey one day. Another one could be your favorite piece of merch. So maybe it's something cool you got signed. Maybe it's a special gift that means a lot to you. Some merch. Favorite holiday snacks. Food is a big, big thing this time of year. We want to know what you're eating. Send us your favorite snacks. And if it's your snacks while you're watching a hockey game, even better. Do you have a favorite snack this time of the year?
Like a specific Christmas snack?
Yeah, or yeah.
So it's pretty basic, but I like just the plain sugar cookies.
Ooh.
I could chew on those things all day.
I have approximately 200 sugar cookies in my house right now.
What?
Yeah. That is
200?
I'm always having a bake sale at her work this week.
Oh, wow.
For charity. And so she spent the weekend baking sugar cookies and also some cinnamon buns.
Oh, cinnamon buns too?
Yeah.
And you have not taken to eating all of these snacks?
No, there was one that got burnt that I got to eat. There was one that got missed from being put into the containers, and I ate it before I could be told no. There was another one and I got 3 made because I specifically requested them. I got 2 Stegosauruses and a T-Rex.
Nice. You get to eat the dinosaurs.
I get to eat the old dino, so that's nice. I showed a lot of self-control.
Well, I love eating those things at this time of year, and I will do them until my stomach hurts.
I would say that my go-to would probably be, I'm a big nuts and bolts fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't made them yet this year, and I might not get a chance to, but who knows? I've got a week off next week, and so I might have to just spend a day baking.
You make them spicy too, don't you?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, if it was just for me, I would. But I like to make sure that everyone can enjoy them. There's obviously a sizable amount of flavor to them, but
nice.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
I like it.
So those are what we're doing for the 12 days of high sticking. So send those in on our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. I know we have teased the fact that you could do it on the Facebook before. I'm actually going to try to do it on Facebook as well. So if you're on the Facebook and not on the Twitter, we're going to try to get the 12 days of high sticking on Facebook as well, so that you can send us your pictures there.
Do we have a lot of likes on Facebook? Do we have a lot of fans?
We have some, like, orders of magnitude less than on Twitter.
Yeah.
But they're there.
Okay.
And I want them to know that we're there at, facebook.com/fourthlinepodcast.
I don't even know if I follow the podcasts on Facebook.
Well, it's your time to do it. I think you do. I suspect that Nick
Excuse me, sorry.
That.
Sounds like something I'd do.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing that you would have done in the past. But do we want to pick our must-watch games of this week?
Do I ever?
Do you ever?
Yeah,
you do.
I just got to open the schedule quickly.
All right, so we'll give a score update. There's a tie at the top with 15 points. Mingyin and Ken are tied at 15 points, so congrats to them. Keep it up. There's lots of season left to go. And, we've got, it's the 10th? We're going to the 14th. You have 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks to get this done, and to pick your games. So what we do is we pick the games that you should be watching every day of the week. You go to Twitter, and you tell us who you think is going to win and what you think the score is. If you're right for all 3, you get 3 points. If you only pick the winner, you get 1. And if you're in the middle, it's something in the middle. So, Nick, Tuesday, December 11th. There's a lot of hot and cold games. That's how I would describe it.
Hot and cold? What do we... Excuse me, what do we got? Do we want to do a Central Division game? Since we just talked about it?
I did. The one that caught my eye is... I wouldn't pick the one that's like Central versus Central.
Okay.
But there's an alphabetical order one that had my eye, featuring a Central Division team.
I am looking for it and obviously don't know the alphabet.
Montreal and Minnesota is what had my eye.
I see it now. Let's do it.
Okay, there you go.
Let's do it. Watch some Max Domi.
There you go. And the big game on Wednesday is the Toronto Raptors taking on the Golden State Warriors.
God, what app do you use?
It's called, it's this little known app called The Score.
Stop using it.
Sorry, The Score. What do you feel about I think if we're talking, going off the Central Division, there's another pretty good looking Central Division matchup, Central Pacific matchup that night, but I don't want to steal all the picks.
You talking about the DA?
I am talking about the D and the
A. Yeah, I think that's going to be the best game that's on that night.
All right, there you go. So Dallas and Anaheim is the pick on Wednesday, which brings us to Thursday. Nick, I'm going to give you no input this time. This is 100% in your court. What are you picking?
Okay, so I've got... At first, I was like, there's only one option and nothing else, and that was Toronto-Tampa. And then I looked down the list. Edmonton-Winnipeg might be good, too.
I would also stick with your Toronto-Tampa pick.
All right.
Go with the gut.
We'll do it for Joel.
Joel's not here, but we will let him. He would make the case. And Joe from Tampa, he'll obviously be watching to see that as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Friday. There is another. I forgot. So speaking of which, Antti Ranta. Speaking of the Arizona Coyotes, he's gone for pretty much the entire year. And looking at this app, they're like, "Hey, Calvin Picker's going to start on Friday." Don't know if I believe that. Don't do it, Arizona. But that's what they think.
I mean, who else would they start?
That Aiden Hill guy that they've got going in there?
Yeah.
He's been doing well. Did you pick him up on your fantasy teams?
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I got on 2 of them.
Well, you're a winner, Carl.
And what are you feeling that night?
I'm feeling the Carl Cup Washington versus Carolina.
Oh, I was like, Nick, the Avalanche play the Blues that night. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about your real favorite team.
Okay, so we will see that. And then it looks like, who is it? One of the guys in Carolina is hurt now. McElhaney? I believe he's hurt.
Oh, is he?
I believe so, yeah.
Josh Darling getting the call up?
I don't believe it, but yeah, Scott Darling is back with the big team. Saturday, everyone knows Saturday is the big night of hockey. Is that the right day? I'm just going to make sure that I have the right day. The 16th is Sunday. Yeah, the 15th. That's the day we're looking
15th.
at.
Yeah.
Is that day. A shockingly small Saturday slate.
Yeah, so we could stick with our Central Division theme and go Dallas, Colorado. That might be a good game. Buffalo, Washington might be a good game, but we've already picked Washington.
Well, we've already picked Dallas as well.
Oh, have we? Well, there you go.
So we can, I will obviously be watching Dallas and Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right, there you go. Dallas, Colorado. Sunday, we have another solid matchup. Good one, Tampa, Winnipeg.
Yeah.
That's a very good, another Central Division team there. That's the only Central Division game you should be watching that day. So if we're sticking Central Division, Tampa, Winnipeg?
Yeah, I like it.
Tampa, Winnipeg is coming through on Sunday. And how do you feel about Monday? Do you want a Monday game? There's nothing that really tickles my fancy.
No, the matchups aren't great.
All right, there you go. So there you go. Monday night, just mash the refresh on the Fourth Line Podcast's feed on your podcast player, and we'll be there for you.
But don't turn on your TV.
Not to watch. There's Monday Night Football. I don't know who's playing that night. This Score app will tell me. It's... Oh. No, that's Monday? Oh, no, that's Sunday. Sunday. Monday Night Football next week. New Orleans and Carolina.
Well, there you go.
So you can watch that. Turn it on for that. Do not turn on Colorado and the Islanders. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'll do it. But do as I say, not as I do.
There you go. So I do have an update. I do like the page on Facebook. And I'm just now noticing that the header image is just a generic image of mountains.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's a beautiful shot, but I don't know if it accurately describes what we speak about on here.
Yeah, that's what happens when you try... So on Twitter, the picture is a picture for the header that I took at an actual game. So if you go to our Twitter profile, you can see that. Here, I'm not a fan of stealing other people's graphics.
Yeah.
And their work. Don't do that, kids. And I wanted something with our name, and that's why it ended up with this. Mountains, I don't know.
Like I said, it's a beautiful shot.
It is a nice shot. It has their slogan, "No finesse, just grinding out our opinions on hockey," which is true. The mountains do not have a lot of finesse to them.
That's also true.
They're very rough and ragged. I believe that was the kind of the thoughts I was going for there.
I like it.
Now that Nick has me there are 238 people, including my grandmother-in-law, who like the podcast on Facebook. Join Nick and my grandmother-in-law and like us on Facebook.
Thanks for listening, Granny.
The Alberta Podcast Network is very proud to be providing shows like this the opportunity to be part of a great collection of shows. And last week we talked about, we talk a lot about the sports shows. Obviously, we are a sports show. The Alberta Podcast Network has many great sports shows, but there are other ones as well. How do you feel about history, Nick? Are you a history buff?
Big fan of history.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then we've got you covered, because there's a number of history podcasts looking at different areas around and telling stories about what's happening in and around Edmonton and the city and Alberta. And so that's a great place. Head on over. Let's Find Out. Let'sFindOutPodcast.com is a monthly podcast that answers questions about Edmonton's history.
Actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so let's find out something about Edmonton, which is, I know I rag on Edmonton a lot for a lot of very valid reasons. But also, there's a lot of really good things that happen there and a lot of cool history. So let's find out about them at the Let's Find Out podcast. So head on over to letsfindoutpodcast.com and check that out. We're on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Fourth Line Podcast. We are at the fourthlinepodcast.com, where there is many great folks who work over there writing articles and doing all kinds of great things. There's an interesting article this week from Mike Vilche about just kind of some of the ways that the NHL has been trying to attract fans. And he thinks they've been going about it all wrong. So head on over, read that article. You can find us here every week. If you like us, give us a review. If you don't like us, don't tell anyone. Just keep that bottled up inside.
Just keep quiet.
Yeah. If you want to, you can tell us on Twitter. Just tweet at us. I promise to retweet it. If you don't like us and you're still listening, I also have a lot of questions for you as well, though. So,
if you do like us and you're still listening, I also have a lot of questions for you.
Okay, so if you're still listening, Nick has questions for you. If you like us, I have questions for you. If you don't, you can tweet at us. You can send us send us Facebook messages if you want to as well. Thank you for listening.
Boom City.